Telegram. If you weren't aware, over on the TNT channel in Telegram this morning, Tom was telling people to get long SLV, and that turned out very well. There are reasons why. We'll get into those, but we also have to talk a little bit about joining us on the live event, dtitrader.com/YouTube. Welcome into our YouTube audience. That Telegram channel, dtitrader.com/Telegram. Everybody needs to check that in the morning. It's vitally important. Now, I do have to say one thing before we get into talking about the trading, and that's click over to our next slide because it's a risk disclaimer. We got to put that out there. There is, let's see, this is a CFTC risk disclaimer because we are talking about some futures markets today. There is large risk in trading. You have to assume all the risk that you're looking at. So those are your decisions. Make sure you make them accordingly. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results, and you should always check with your financial or licensed financial advisor and tax advisor to determine the suitability of any investment you're looking for. So past performance not necessarily indicative of future results. There is risk in trading. I think we got that covered. Let's go ahead and hit on our next slide here because we're going to get into some of the news shaping the market this morning. Now, early on, it was GDP and PCE. GDP came in at 1.4% for the fourth quarter versus expected 2.8%. The market had climbed up to that news, sort of fell off a little bit afterward. We actually very slightly traded below yesterday's low, and that GDP miss was one of the big reasons. Core PCE also a little bit elevated, came in at 3% versus an expectation of 2.9%. But the big news this morning coming out at around a little bit after 10 a.m. Eastern was the SCOTUS ruling, a 6-3 ruling that IEEPA does not provide legal framework for the imposition of tariffs. In other words, they ruled against the administration. If you click on that little link that says ruling, that will take you to the actual ruling. It's very complicated, it's in depth, there's a lot to it. But the big news, Tom, for the market is that coming up on Tuesday morning, the next time the Supreme Court's going to list an opinion, that website traffic at supremecourt.gov is going to be down significantly because a lot of traders were waiting and waiting and waiting on this ruling, and now they're not. And that's the big thing from the market perspective. I think, Tom, you said this perfectly a little bit earlier. It takes away a layer of uncertainty and allows the market to be a little bit more free than it has been leading up to this point. And so that gets me to the point where I want to get to the next slide, and I want to get, Tom, your opinion on what all this means.
Yeah, it pretty much, I don't know if you can post what I posted at TNT this morning when I gave an analysis of everything. And my conclusion, it's in there, my conclusion was that all outcomes lead to higher silver and gold. That was my conclusion. And so what I did is that this morning in TNT I said after the news, I'm going to buy SLV if it goes above 73.05. And I said, if you're in my silver wheel, oh, by the way, I went to my futures program, not to leave them out, and said, I'm getting in this SIC, which is the 100-ounce contract. First time I'd ever traded myself. I think it's more of a hold contract, but I did take some profits. I had a bunch of it, so I took some profits on that. But I said I was going to roll into options. I need to see how effective our communication is with people that have the silver wheel. Did y'all get the trade I did on options on SLV? Because I'd made a statement. I said, when they take my money, I charge an interest. And so we're doing that. Now, let me just talk about SLV. You look at the current price at 74. It's going to have a little resistance as it struggles higher here. But SLV, in my opinion, is going to make it to 79. Write that down, 79. As long as it stays above $72.15, I would be looking for buying opportunities based off the roadmap and based off the reference bars, okay? And that is something that's out there for people to see. Okay. Uh, Neil Sullivan, I tried to call you. When I finish this, you ought to call me. Okay. Neil Sullivan. Okay. I tried to call you. I want to talk to you, but you didn't answer your phone, so that cost you a couple grand. Anyway, but here's the point. If silver's going to 79, SLV's going to 79, I just call it 78 and a half, 79 and a half. That's sort of my target, right? If it's going there, the question is, Tom, when do you think that's going to happen? I think there's a better than 60% chance, notice I said 60, that it happens by the end of next week. And you say, well, Tom, why are you so cocksure on that? Okay, well, let me tell you what's going on. How many people know I used to be a member of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange? How many people know that? Now, that doesn't give me any great pipeline to a lot of people, but I've been around long enough that I have friends that actually had seats on the New York Stock Exchange for silver. And I've been talking to them because there's been a rumor out there talking about the COMEX was going to have delivery problems next Friday. Now, to explain a little bit about how futures work, if you have a long March contract, the H contract, and you take delivery, then they have to provide the silver to you. Does everybody understand that? Give me a yes if you understand that. Well, here's the problem. They don't have the silver to give you. So they got a couple choices: to cash settle it or to change the rules. They did that during the bunker hunt days. So if anything, so they're going to come out on top. But here's what's going to happen. The market itself is going to figure out what I figured out and what my friends have figured out, and you're going to see higher prices in silver over the near term. Okay, that's one reason. And the numbers tell you that. If you looked at the TNT this morning, where I said 73.05 is where you want to get long, 72.15 is where it's all bets off. That's a pretty good trade if you just think about it, stand back and think about it, you know. And then if you don't want to do the stock, in my silver wheel program, I said, let's go buy the silver wheel. And Jonathan, can you post what you posted in there for everybody to see, where they can see it? That was a great statement you posted in there. Okay, about
Okay.
silver wheel.
Sure. Yeah, you called me up and you said, hey, I'm doing this. And here it is right here, circled. Tom's got a new trade. SLV March 6th was the expiration, about the 74 call option on a probe. So he's willing to buy it on a pullback, buy more on a pullback. Initially, from our discussion, 79 was the target. Tom called me back later on, said that's a longer term target and that he was day trading the call, targeting 455 to 475. And a little bit of ABO hedging if needed, or if you couldn't take a day trade, say you can turn it into a spread, a 5 wide if needed, or if the SLV dropped to 72.15. Well, it turns out SLV made another push higher and the option got up to 455. I don't know the exact high, but it got above 455. So everybody should have been booking some profits. Good trade, Tom.
Or spread it to that price if you can't take a day trade. You know, you could go sell to 79 and just hold on to it, because I'm going to be doing this trade again probably Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of next week if it sets up. And if you want to be part of the silver wheel, John, put the link in there if somebody wants to join the silver wheel, if they want to be part of this, because I think that people have found out that when I say things, I mean those things. And my two guys from the floor both gave me separately the same story, which made the rumor to me more likely that we got an issue next week, and the numbers are definitely showing that in the market. Okay. And we'll show that on the roadmap in a second. But if you want to join the wheel, there it is. You can just see it there, be part of it. I think that it's pretty slick that we can do that. Now, does everybody understand? That is a huge trade for some people if they've been with me a long time, because I posted that in there, told people I was going to do it, and then I followed through, and everybody's got a lot more money if they took the trade. If you didn't take the trade, you ought to say to yourself, what was different about today's trade? Well, here's what was different. I did it. A lot of people got their accounts fat because of that, okay? And I think that's good. But there's a lot more to go. Now let's talk about the general market. The general market had a big cloud overhanging it. And you'll know this about news. The general thought was if the tariffs came out, it was going to be negative, and it was. We were at the highs, and it sold down and tested the lows. But then it reversed on the reference bar. It reversed. It went down to 68.48, tested the low of the night, reversed, and once it got above 69.02, I went long. Okay, on the S&P. Now I know there's resistance up there at 69.38. We'll see if we get that high or not. But I think this is a good thing for the overall market because one of what I would call variables in there that's holding us down was this ruler. Okay. Now there'll be some things that come out once you hear a response and stuff like that. But I think that is pretty good to know. So the market should have one other big downdraft, and that downdraft is what is it? That downdraft is the winds of war. Now nobody knows if it's going to happen, but if it does happen, the market will sell off. And so I was asked about the pocket puts. What did I tell you on pocket puts? I told you that on pocket puts, that's an all or nothing bet. And I've had a lot of people say, do we get out of the pocket puts? It's a hedge until all the known uncertainties are gone. Meaning you got 50 cents up and you got a chance if we do go to war in that expiration period, which is definitely far enough to count for that to happen. So I'm in all or nothing on it, me personally, okay? All right. That's just the way it is. Well, you're wrong, Trader Ann, it did. Silver's at 74.50 and the option is right now trading 470. So I don't know what you're looking at, but it's definitely paid out. Okay, definitely paid out. All right, so if you don't understand, then you already get some explanation from Jonathan at some time because you're missing something, and that's a good educational thing to learn. Now, Friday, it's 11 o'clock, and I feel like I've already had a day's worth of work done, but there's more to go. And we got to get through Genesis and see that. But I'd like to, Jonathan, what do you have next? T-Buzz Talking Trade. Let's look at 3-day algo, see how everything looks. But this is a program that T-Buzz Talking Trade, you got to be part of. I mean, who doesn't want $1,000 in the morning? Goodness. That's 5 months of T-Buzz Talking Trade this morning. Take it away, Jonathan.
Okay, I'm getting the algo updated. Not much changing on the board. But this is Feb 20th at 11:18 a.m. I say not much changing in relation to the two columns here for 3 days high and low. Obviously, we're trading up and down in the markets, but the 3-day high on the S&P was 70.27. More important right now was the February open at 69.38. We're trading at 69.04. That's twice now in 2 days, end of yesterday and this morning that the S&P went down and hit its weekly open, which was 68.52 and bounced from that level, 68.52. Here's the weekly open on the S&P. 69.38 is the Feb monthly open. A couple longs. We got crude oil long above 65.53. We got bonds long above 115. From our seven sisters, bonds are our strongest market. And it looks to be that Bitcoin is our weakest market. Short below 72,000. TLT, of course, is the ETF we use to trade bonds. Financials are still short. Where do we go here? Utility is still long, so that hasn't changed. Panther Milk and Silver was long yesterday. It's still long. A couple more long here, GLD and GDX. Those were not long yesterday. They are long today. These four Mag 7 stocks were short yesterday. They're still short. As we scroll down here, General Motors are still short. Nike's still long. Another bank came on board, short, Citigroup. And then we have the two that were short yesterday, Nuclear and Palantir, or NNE and Palantir. Grid, these four here were long yesterday. They're still long. Grid, Sky, Johnson & Johnson, and McDonald's, while BTU has turned south here. This is a spreadsheet of our futures and stocks of interest based on the first 3 days of the month. Spreadsheet doesn't change. The link doesn't change, so make sure you grab that from the chat. Save it however you like. I prefer to click the little star at the top right to bookmark it to the web browser. You might want to do that as well. We do share the link every day at Train and Trade, so if you catching the recording on YouTube or something for the very first time, just show up during one of the Zoom sessions, get the link, and then you'll have it for later months as the months go along. Again, the link doesn't change. We just update spreadsheet. So, what do we got, Tom? About one more week of trading for February?
Yeah, one more week. Why don't we go to a live market? Let's talk about a couple markets I got my eye on.
Okay. We're now looking at the roadmap software. We got a 30-minute chart of the S&P on the left and a 30-minute chart of the NASDAQ on the right.
All right, on the right, let's change that to on the left put GDX and on the right put SLV.
GDX on the left, 30-minute chart. SLV on the right, 30-minute chart.
Yeah, let's go daily.
Okay, daily GDX, daily SLV.
Okay. So if you look at SLV, it's still early, but it's going to have resistance at 75. I can tell you that. That's just a natural number. And 72, it's draw two numbers on it. I'm going to show you the playing field for SLV. 72.15. Draw that line. I want people to see it where I can say if it goes to 79 and you don't make money, then I can't help you. You're not listening.
72.15.
And then 79, well, 78.5 to 79.5, where I think the zone
is. 78.48 is close enough where my line got drawn there.
Okay. So we're just really now get going. Now look at that red bar there, that red bar that took us down, that long red bar. The high of that bar is what?
75.67.
Yeah, you're going to need to see us get above that number probably Monday or Tuesday or maybe Sunday night to start going higher. That's your real resistance number right there on SLV. However, there's a lot of money to be made between 74 and 75.5. Okay, you got good timing. And the other thing I want to cover, okay, you've heard me talk about it in my book and everything else. Probe it. Let's say you get an option like this silver, okay, and you say, I'm really going to commit, I'm going to buy 500 shares or 1,000 shares or 200 shares. Well, you got a couple ways of approaching the way I would. I would approach it where I took a third of it if I'm doing maybe more than 500 shares. But if I'm doing doing maybe less than 500, I might do a half. By half, make sure you're making money on it. Make sure that the read was good, timing was good, and then buy the other half when you start making money. Now, this morning you'd had to act pretty quick with that. You bought it 73.05, then at 73.30, you bought the other half, you got your full position, it goes all the way to 74.30, make a full dollar on that trade from 8:30 to now. That's how I would do it. Now, the other stock I want to talk about is GDX. If you look at the daily there, we made a new high. It's got some resistance. What's that green bar over there to the left? At the top, goes into the buy area right there.
106.47.
Write that number down, 106.47. We're currently 104. We're going to have some resistance getting up through that number. But when you get through that number, it's very fast going to get to 110. So I'm telling Jonathan now, I'm telling you now, we got all your eyes on this. That's what you ought to be asking me about, because if I miss it now after giving you my inside playbook on it, I'm going to be upset. I don't want to miss it. But I get busy doing webinars, and next thing I know, the stock's at 110. That ain't right. So all you are deputy market traders right now. If it hits those two numbers that hit, hold on, I got to take this call. Hold on one second. Hello?
All right. Well, while Tom is on that call,
I'm back. I
okay,
handled it.
great.
Anyway, what were we going to say, Chuck? You can say about it. I want to make a point. These 2 points here bring further profits to us, and it's up to everybody here. We're working together to let us know if it happens. I'm telling Jonathan, goodness gracious, hold on.
Yeah, no, I was just going to point out that, we talk about the weakness that has been in these markets, strength coming back, but I want everybody to be aware the open of the year in SLV was 67.30. You're at 74. The open of the month was 73.80. You look at gold, similar situation there, right? The year open 87.12, the month open 93.97. You're looking at these charts, you see that sharp drop off climbing back up. But if you go and look at the S&P, they opened the month at 69.38.50. They're trading 68.98.50. So the metals are still, I think, Tom, outperforming the broader market. And I think that's kind of a big deal and absolutely worth noting.
Yeah, Chuck, and I agree. That's a good point, Mike. But I want people to understand, just because it doesn't go to these numbers doesn't mean you can't get long on Monday or Tuesday. You go to the reference part. I want this typed in there in bold print. Silver and gold are bullish, and as long as silver is above 72.15, everything I say is going to happen. Type that in there. Which means, how do you enter a market that's maybe correcting down a little bit? Look at the reference bars. And we got white papers for that. We'll give it to you. Give it to him, Jonathan, the white papers, because you got to learn these times. These times have been, over the years, have been proven to be the exact times you need to be entering and exiting trades. They're called reference bars. Okay. Those are the numbers. Once we get above that, we go to the next level. Does everybody understand what I'm saying? The next level. It has nothing to do with anything but the price and the number. Okay, that's on silver and gold. All right, now, let's talk about the QQQ. Put the QQQ in there and the SPY in there, Jonathan, next. Daily first.
Buys on the left. QQQ is on the right.
Okay. Now, the SPY is stronger than the QQQ, but here's what you need to know. Does everybody see that daily high today and the previous daily highs? Everybody see it? John, give me that number. Those two bars right there.
60 or 689.31 was today. 689.15 was 2 days ago.
Okay, so I would say, and you ought to write this number down, 690.55. 690.55. Okay, that's on silver. Let's go look at the two numbers on the QQQ. What are the two numbers on the QQQ?
All right, 690.55 on the SPY, SPY.
Right.
Today's high on the QQQ was 610.33, and 2 days ago was 609.77. 610.33, 609.77.
Okay. So those two numbers will bring you a whole bunch of stocks going higher. You ought to write those two numbers down if you want to know the key to this entire market. They're right there in front of you. That's in the SPY and the QQQ. Now let's put the E-mini and NASDAQ futures in there if you want an early look at how things happen.
S&P futures on the left.
All right, what's the same two numbers futures-wise?
The high from 2 days ago on the futures was a little bit higher at 69.25.
Okay.
But
I
now
would use it on S&P futures. I would use 69.38 because that is a monthly open number. But that shows you how it's got resistance up there at 69.38, doesn't it? Okay. So we know the number on futures. Let's go back to the NASDAQ. What's the two numbers there?
well, today's high is the higher of the two highs at 25,138.
Okay, 25,138. Okay. If it goes up on futures, on NASDAQ futures, I'd be looking at 253.27. Write that number down, 253.27. And I already gave you the number, did not, for the S&P futures. Okay. Futures first, and then SPY and QQQ. So you look at all four of them, and we have a feature inside the roadmap called Genesis inside the roadmap that will give you these numbers and tell you when it's time to come out of the garage. Is everybody aware that we have that feature inside the roadmap software? What I just gave you took me 30 years to learn that. Okay. It's now given away inside the roadmap software. And John, I want you showing Genesis with those four tickers. Just showing what the day looks like.
Under tables, Genesis. Name it today. Add symbols. Let's go S&P futures. NASDAQ futures. SPY. QQQ. GDX. SLV. I'm going to rearrange this a little bit so you can see it better. And we're going to adjust those column widths so we can see everything. Let me just collapse this right here. That's what
So if you look at this SLV is showing out because of Genesis, right? Is that why it's doing that? 11:30?
we just hit 11:30. Yeah, but that's not it won't, the high from the Genesis bar won't be factored in until it's done, until it's finished. So
Okay.
as we begin to form the Genesis bar right now, the NASDAQ is at its highs above all the prior reference bars. Same for the SPY, QQQ, and SLV. Not necessarily high of day, but it's above all the reference bars that occurred prior to now. That's what this feature does.
And Jonathan, I think Mac had a good suggestion there. I'll slow down. You can tell I'm excited because I've been talking to people and people know me very well. Been saying, Tom, thanks so much. I just knocked it out of the park with that early call. I mean, that makes me feel good because I feel like I'm making a real significant contribution to your success when that happens. That gets me excited because that's why I'm here doing it, right? Nothing. I get no more satisfied. There's nothing I like better than to hear people give me feedback. Okay. But using these tools, I don't make any bones about it. I use these tools to make these decisions, and it's a process I do. And here's another statement I'll use. I don't care what ticker it is, the odds have to be in my favor to do it. Okay. And I'm in a little bit, we're going to go back and I'm going to talk about a program. Jonathan, what program will I be talking about? I want to make sure I'm in sync with you. Which one we talk about today?
And it looks like Adam queued up the weekend side hustle program for you at the very
All
end.
right.
Very, very
Yeah.
end.
Yeah. I'll come back around to that before we get there, but we got some more training to do. Is this helping everybody what I'm doing today? I'm taking a lot of time right now to make sure you get the point. And here's the point, as one student said, listen. You got to listen. So we're going to have a great finish to February. We've been very particular. Our live trades is pushing 90% that we're doing live with you. Okay. And I'm basically trying to help everybody here put money in the bank, but you got to listen. Now, everything's not going to be perfect. There's nothing perfect in this game. That's part of what you do. You learn to recognize when it's not perfect and know how to do this. And you don't have to be in front of a computer to do it because the technology that we're using now is so much advanced from what it used to be. It's just, I'm impressed with it personally, you know. So I wanted to show you that this morning, take time showing it to you. Y'all ready to go make some more money? Okay. I asked Jonathan, I'm a real believer, and the reason I came out of retirement to teach futures was because I'm a real believer. If you use what I can teach you in futures in your regular stock picking and trading and all that stuff, you're going to be a lot better in the art, even if you don't trade futures. So this is learning to trade futures in 10 foundational steps. Number one, you got to know what futures are. I had somebody, David, ask a question. I don't think David has never ever explained it to you, but the futures is a contract between a buyer and a seller, and they're telling you where things are going to be at a future date. That's why they call it futures. Okay. And that futures price can be used as a hedge, like a farmer can say corn's at X dollars, and I'm willing to sell my corn if it gets to this price and sell his corn in the futures market or commodity market. That's a difference, but that's a commodity, and sell it. It's a way to acquire a commodity at wholesale prices. For example, if I had a little trouble at the bank and couldn't get enough money to plant corn, I could scrape away some nickels while the bank's trying to make a decision on me and go buy the corn contracts. That's an example. Buy it wholesale, waiting to get an answer. And heck, if it goes up, maybe I don't even plant corn this year. That's the beauty of futures. Got to learn futures. Even if you've never traded, you got to learn it. So when a guy like me, who's been around all these years, says, hey, I'm looking at the S&P or I'm looking at the NASDAQ to make a decision on the SPY or make a decision on the QQQ, then you got to know the language. So understand the basics of what a futures contract is. Now, here's some key points about futures. They bring leverage into play. With a small amount of capital, you can control a lot of money. Now, Jonathan, do some math for it. On an E-mini right now at 6906, what does an E-mini control in dollars? Do the multiplication for it and share that with them, just where they'll know what I'm talking about.
Oh, the E-mini is worth $50 per point. 6906 times 50 is 345,000.
Pretty strong. Hold on a second. Okay. So the beautiful thing about it, you can play futures a lot of different ways. I like the leverage. There's no day trading rule. You go in and out as many times as possible. And it's just as easy to short a futures as to buy a future when they go down. They're open 24/5. They start on Sunday night. They open on a lot of holidays too. Like when we had that day off, I traded futures. Hey, I got expenses every day, so I trade futures on those days. But they are open. And having the ability to have access to a market, I think, lowers your risk. And that's what you work on. Now, a commodity is a futures contract. This is where the confusion comes in. Just think you call them futures commodities. And it's a terminology thing. Don't get caught up on it. They work the same. A futures contract is not necessarily a commodity. A commodity has a deliverable asset, like that silver I was telling you that they got to deliver the actual ounces of silver, the 5,000 ounce. That is called a commodity, right? If a cash sells something, don't have delivery, that's called a future. I don't know why they want to confuse the world. It's all the same. Not all futures are deliverable, as you find out. They cash settle a lot of these, like on expiration day. Now, index futures are not a commodity because they're cash settled. Index futures are a derivative of the underlying cash index. People like SPX, I say trade the E-mini futures. You got 24-hour. Let me ask you a question. Which one has less risk? A cash index that I can only get in between the hours of 9:30 and 4, or a futures contract I could get in at night, morning, day or night? Futures has less risk. That's right. Anyway, it's just a mathematical calculation. It tries to predict where the cash index will be in the future. The gold futures are a commodity because they're deliverable, 100 ounces worth, 100 ounces of gold. If you buy the futures contract, you can be delivered 100 troy ounces of gold. Nobody wants to do that, not unless you're an institution. You got a need for it. Most people are speculators in that industry. Speculators have put the COMEX. Anyway, where are futures traded? Futures are traded on exchanges like stock. New York Stock Exchange is for stock. Chicago Mercantile is for futures. Global Exchange, Globex, all trade electronic. That's what I had machine years ago, way before people had access. Future symbols, a little different than stock symbols. At TD Ameritrade, you put a slash in there to get it. Future contracts have an expiration date, and they have the symbol, the expiration month, and the expiration year. The symbol consists of letters and numbers. The expiration month is a letter, and the expiration year is a number. It'd be good to have an example to show that on this slide the next time. Okay? And this is how you compare the difference. ES, E-mini, Dow, those are the symbol futures. On the right-hand side, you can put the diamond, SPY, QQQ, DAX futures, bonds. I use TLT. Crude, you can use USO. Gold, you can use GLD. And silver, you can use SLV. You can compare those two against the future contract. Now here's the contract model. If I was you, I got it memorized just because I've done it so many years. If I was you, I'd take a picture of this slide, and that way you will have it. Now keep in mind, S&P futures expire every quarter. Gold futures expire every month, not gold futures. Crude futures expire every month. And there's the June contract, which will be rolling into. By the way, they'll roll out of March and roll into June. How about expiration cycles? Index futures currency expire every quarter. Crude oil's every month. Gold is every other month. And best to go to CME or bar chart websites to learn more. Those are two websites you can go to, and they'll explain all that to you in detail. I guess when you do it so many years, you won't sell in there. Something's going my way. I love it. Anyway, it's best to begin trading a new contract on rollover days. Liquidity ships to the new contract. Yeah, a lot of people just say, hey, I can buy this here and hold on to it. It's not. Stay with the active contract. They call it the first step. Now, commodities do not have a rollover date. They use first notice date. Next Friday for silver, the 27th, is the first notice date. What does first notice date mean? It means all those people that are short silver have to find a replacement, and all those people who are long silver have to make a decision. Do I want to take the contracts or get out? You can go to the exchange website to find out. Margin is something that every broker now gives you. Amount needed to open position, like that new silver contract. SIC is the symbol. SIC H26 is the symbol. You got to put up about 2,000. Now, to keep a position, you got to have a minimum amount to hold that position. Usually it's a drop of about 20% from where you got in. They mark to market every day in your account. So you got to be aware of how much money you got in there covering that position. You choose where you want to focus. Don't try to trade everything. In my program I have, Futures Education, I focus on what's hot. I get bored focusing on the other stuff. I want to make money every week. So I got a Monday week, trade of the week. Guess what it was this week? It was gold. What gold's done. They get to know on Monday night what y'all get to find out on Tuesday and Wednesday. They got the small micros now. I didn't like it at first, but now I'm sort of growing like this silver, SIC. It went from 5,000 an ounce, where you got to put up 125,000 now, to 1,000, where you got to put up 25,000 now for 1,000 ounces, down to 2,000. So you can average in now. And silver is a very volatile contract, but the trend holds pretty true. So I'm going to use this SIC quite a bit. I can see personally. I can buy it and sort of hold it if I want to. That's exactly what I'm doing today. Because the target for me is $86 a share on silver futures. You might write that number down. All right, the hard part about it is understanding how the money works, right? That's why I tell anybody who want to trade futures, you can go to cmegroup.com and find out. But quite honestly, if you go to Tasty Trade, I think that's one of the best educational future platforms out there. I would, if you're new to futures, you ought to start there. You might end up at Thinkorswim, but if you're new to futures, that's a good place to start. Yeah, SIC is the symbol, /SIC H26. Might type that in there for people. At 5,000, I think about this until about October of last year, I never traded anything but the big contract. Now it's 125,000 trade that big boy. Goodness gracious. It's huge. The 24-hour market and trend identification is important, okay? Higher highs, higher lows, lower highs, lower highs. You learn that through the roadmap and time. Time is very important, time of day. How many people have noticed I typically do things around reference bars? Y'all ever notice that, 10, 12, and 2? That's usually when you're going to get a trade that I enter around that time frame, because that's when I really look at it and see how it sets up. Time of day is a critical part of doing that. That's the foundation of the DTI method. Here's the 24-hour clock. And just to give you an idea, that's what it looks like. 4 time segments: Asia, Europe, US, US market. What are reference bars? 30-minute bars or candles placed at key times throughout the trading day. These guideposts during the 24-hour market cycle offer important price levels and enhance market timing and clarity. By anchoring in these bars, traders gain access. That's why if you want to trade at night, you got to use the reference bar. If you want to trade early morning, you got to use the reference bar. There's the reference bar time. And Jonathan, on the next version we do this when we improve it, I put this ahead because it gives the big picture, they can see it. That's a great slide right there. You ought to take a picture of that slide. That's the white papers that you can read and do that. That's pretty cool, I think. What do y'all think? Isn't that a good slide? Okay. To make money, you got to buy lower than what you sell it at. Works this way in the futures market, works this way in the stock market. I always say you got to keep your B's less than S's to make money. Seems like a simple concept, but people get confused. And remember, if you've got less than 25 on the stock side, you can only make 3 trades in a 5-day period. If you flagged as a pattern day trader, then you can, if once you open and close a position same day, they'll ban you for 90 days. So you really get into what I call day trading jail when that happens. Now, future options. Let's talk about future options. They work just like equity options, except the cost of options based on 1 point move and underlier controls 1 future contract. If an ES option is priced at $6, it'd be 6 times $50 for the ES E-mini, be $300. If a silver option is priced at 25 cents, it'd be 25.25 times 5,000 ounce contract, it'd be $12.50 for the big contract. We're going to break that down for all the contracts now. That'd be good. Okay.
And that's the last slide with the
All
10
right,
year
what I'd like
there.
to do is, Jonathan, what I'd like to do, I went through that painstakingly with you. I'm gonna go back. This is the first. I said, Jonathan, show me what you would show people. Just give Jonathan a hand for putting that together. That was a lot of work he did. Okay. Now, is there anything? Type in here things you'd like me to add to this presentation. I'm working on this presentation because you're going to see this in probably a major publication in the next few months, and I'm going to have y'all help me tell me things I'm missing because I've done it so years. I don't want to take anything for granted. So if you've got anything that you would like to ask or add, you ought to type it in here and give us a suggestion. We'd take it and use it the next time we put this together. Pretty cool stuff, isn't it? That's a platform issue. Do you think art includes some stuff? You think art includes some stuff on the platforms? You do? Okay. Maybe we'll include some stuff on that, Jonathan. Okay. Anything to help you get better at the game of trading. Okay. Yeah, the Dow and the Russell, we could add that. Yeah, that's good. Okay, Neil wants to get into the nitty gritty. Neil, I'm not going to do that. It depends on the broker you're using. I would tell you to go to the exchange and find the fees and then ask the broker what they're going to charge you. That's the best way to do it. They got the fees on the CME. If you go look it up, too much work. I don't take a trade unless I got that factored in. Just part of the game. Whatever they say, I have to pay it, right? So I do enough contracts, they'll give me a discount. They can't discount. There's some standard fees they can't go lower than. All right, Jonathan, I want to summarize before we go in. We're going to talk about the weekend side hustle, right? With the slides.
Yeah, we've got a video I can queue up time whenever.
All right. Before I do that, let me summarize what you should have took away from this morning. I've used this term before, the hottest ticker on the planet is silver. And it's a very volatile market and there's risk in there. However, you can eliminate, or not eliminate, but you can reduce that risk through the strategies I use. Okay? And I've pre-outlined for you some key numbers today on silver and gold. The all bets off number for SLV is $72.15. Now, if you want to convert that to silver futures, you'd have to go into the moneymaker and put it in there to get it. I just use SLV, okay? 72.15. I believe that SLV is going to have resistance between 75 and 76. And then once it gets above that, we should head to 78.5 to 79.5 on this run next week. Now, I said the index market, that's meaning NASDAQ, is going to run into resistance today at 69.38. Now, Genesis is a big part of that. And so we got to look at it as we get longer in the tooth, meaning more time goes by. I'm going to trade silver and gold in TNT before the market opens at 9:30 Monday. And I might trade it Sunday night. So if you got any idea, put the link in there, Jonathan, let it join. But it's only $200 a month. Ridiculous low. But if you want to be part of that, I'm going to milk what I believe silver is going to give us, and gold is going to give us the next 5 days. There's no better place, no higher odds play that I have than silver and gold over the next 5 days. Okay? One exception, and that's what we're going to talk about. I have a program. I typically, my last trade I make at the end of the day, yeah, GDX will be there, of course. That's gold. Okay? And I got a whole list of that. If you look at the mutual fund I put together, I'm still long. Okay? And Peg says she came late to the party. It was such a great trade. I'm up 12% on what you said. Drink some coffee and be up early with me, Peg. That's when I make my best decision. Okay. Now, there's a couple stocks I'm looking at this afternoon. I probably won't put it on the next Tuesday. One is CME, and the other one is Taiwan Semiconductor. I'll look at it over the weekend, make sure I want to get in those stocks. I think they've got a big future in front of them, and I'm going to come up and we'll talk about that maybe Sunday night. We'll see. Okay. That's Taiwan Semiconductor, symbols TSM, and CME, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Okay. We'll put that on the summary. Okay. These two stocks. The QQQ, I'm a specialist in the QQQ, meaning I can trade the QQQ on a daily basis, day trade, swing basis, overnight. How do I know? I've got a program called the Weekend Side Hustle. Okay? If I told you that that program is maybe close to 85, 90% accurate when I do it, it's the last trade I do every week. I will do it today at 3:30. Who's interested in that? Being part of it. Because what I did, I told Adam to come up with this year's price. I want you to be there with me this year. And so we got a price. Once we go to slides, we'll discuss it. Okay? But I'm going to do that trade this afternoon. I might do it as early as 2 o'clock, so you don't want to wait around. Okay? But that trade's in play right now. I'm just setting it up. Now, this is the Weekend Profits Club. 968 for the rest. Is that for the rest of this year, Jonathan? Is that the right price?
I think Adam did a 1 year price, from now until a year later.
I want him to give me one for this year compatible. Can you get Adam to give us that price?
I will attempt to do that. It's not a quick process. Hang on a second.
I want him to have an opportunity to get like almost a free ride by being there with me. That's why I did it. This is the Buck's a VIP. He's smiling, but I'm just telling you, I'm going to give a price here that
AT-Buzz 968 is for 1 year. What?
Yeah, I just wanted to go for the rest of this year, Adam, like we did for the one ticket, the same price for the one ticket, one ticker. What was that price for a year? Was it $4.99?
That was $4.99.
Yeah, that's the price we want to use for anybody who wants to join the Weekend Side Hustle right now. These are new players. A lot of people are already VIP. They love this program. I'm going to open it up if people want to be in there. In the meantime, y'all remember that silver option we bought? I hope you still got some of it. It's almost $5. I'm running out of inventory, John. It keeps going higher, higher, and higher. 510. I'm at one at 510 now. I'm coming out of it small increments. See, he'll show 20%. I end up making 40 or 50 on the thing by milking it, education wise, right? There, got it sitting in there. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Peg, you can. I'd rather the XSP because I trade inside. Well, Rob, that's the decision. I would wait to Genesis. But Rob asked, would you add to it? I said, I would wait to Genesis. And if Genesis has a higher price, you go higher, you got a continuation date. I'd say absolutely I'd add to it. Because you can always spread it against the 79 at the end of the day, trying to get some extra money. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. When Adam gets the link, we'll go further. Why don't we take a 5-minute break? I've been talking nonstop. Let me get some water. Then y'all might come up with some questions. Who's excited about the opportunity to jump into the weekend side hustle with me? It's coming. Just hold on. How many people enjoy the fact that I didn't rush you out of here today and did all this education and stuff? You know, pretty wild, isn't it? It's been a heck of a session. Adam needs some time here. You put a clock up for 5 minutes, Jonathan. Doing something.
Sure. Hopefully 5 minutes is enough time. Like I said, it's not a quick process.
Hey, Pete, the reference bar system was built off futures. 24 hours. All right, we're going to take a little break. We'll be back. Hey, Rob, in answer to your question, you can go on and add to that if you wanted to. I know that's what you're thinking. It looks good. I'd take it. I'd go on and add to it if you want to. All right, they put the link in there. They put the link in there. If you look, Jonathan, can you call it to their attention where if people want to join me, they can.
Yep.
And to find out more about the program, we'll play the tape. Me too, Rob.